Hello, everybody. I know it's 2025 and I started a podcast. Like, podcasting is dead. I understand that. I am totally aware of the situation with podcasting, but I'm very passionate about this. So I really want to start a podcast that has to deal with ADHD and how to live with it unmedicated. Because I'm 23 and I definitely gotten tested for ADHD in high school, college, and I did not want to take any more meds because I've already been taking sleeping meds to get myself to sleep. So I was like, I'm done with the meds. I don't want to rely on them. So and throughout this entire podcast, I want to give you guys tips on what I do to manage my ADHD and how to get in control of it. Use it as a superpower, like per with it. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to do that in this podcast. So if you have ADHD, if you're confused, don't know what to do, listen up. Here we go. So I'm going to call this podcast Young, Wired, and Unmedicated because that's what this is. Young, wired, and unmedicated. We're trying to get organized here. All of our thoughts, all of our ADHD habits, patterns, things like that. We're trying to get in control of that this year. We're trying to implement systems where we can stay on top of it because let's be honest, sometimes ADHD likes to run our lives. I wanted to start off the first episode with something that ADHD is not really known for, which is the emotional side. So people don't realize that when you have ADHD, there are certain things that happen when emotionally when things go wrong or someone overreads a situation that has ADHD. So a lot of people don't really understand why people act the way they do when they are aware that they have ADHD, but they don't understand what it actually is. So I'm not a doctor or anything. I just have ADHD and I want people to understand what it is that we do and how to learn about it. And if you have a partner or, someone related to you that has ADHD, that you can manage it and understand, oh, this person needs this, or maybe clarification, I'm going to hit on the emotional side of ADHD, which is emotional dysregulation and rejection sensitive and rejection sensitive sensitivity and rejection sensitivity. See, I can't. My ADHD already acting out. Rejection sensitivity and also like beating yourself up, right? Negative self-talk, because that's something that we all do. Not even the people with ADHD. We all just do it. We all beat ourselves up. So I want to talk a little bit on that today. So going back to the first topic is emotional dysregulation. What that is inability to manage the intensity and the quality of emotions, resulting in emotional response that is intense and could be prolonged, and it could be quote unquote outside of the social norm. Okay, so that's what emotional dysregulation is. We who have ADHD have a really hard time controlling our emotions. It is something that we struggle with so bad. We feel literally everything. And I know some people are like, oh, like people with ADHD, they're just like so desensitized. Like, they don't understand what I'm feeling. They don't cry. They don't do this. Like, but I feel like on our level, we just don't know how to act. We don't know how to express our feelings, our emotional side, because we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what's going on in our brains. It's going 1,000 miles a minute and we're all over the place. We can't sort through our feelings and tell you how I feel in 5 minutes. Like, it has to take a whole process, a whole journaling session, a whole thing to even understand that I'm happy right now. Like, it is such, oh, it is so much work to understand what our emotions are and what we're feeling and why we're feeling it. So I want to say that if you are in a relationship or you know somebody who has the ADHD and they start getting very intense emotions, I want you to step back and be like, okay, what do you need right now? And take a minute, let them go cool off or do whatever, and then you can come back and ask them if they want to talk about it or whatever. So something that really helps me with emotional dysregulation is taking a minute, sitting with myself, sitting in it, not doing anything else. Because again, my mind up here is going. It's going 1,000 miles a minute. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And you're trying to pick apart what you're feeling, which is not this, it's this. So you're trying to get on the same page. And that's why we take a minute or we take a break, because we're trying to get our head and our heart in the same place so we can figure out what is going on. Identifying what you're feeling is key. So sitting with it, taking time to really understand what it is you're actually feeling is a big thing. So writing it down. I'm a visual learner. I learn by seeing physical things. So I write things down. It helps me so much. If you're an audio person, do a little voice memo. If you are a reading person, type it in your notes on your phone. Something that can get what you're feeling out, even if it's a jumble word of mess. Like, even if you're writing a line, oh, I feel like, and then you think of something like dinosaur green, write it all down. Write it down. It's like brain dumping, okay? But still write it down, because eventually once you go back and read it and you pick apart the parts that are important, you can start to put together, okay, this makes sense. I'm feeling this because, somebody said that I looked a little bit thick today. And I'm feeling very, very angry because I've been trying to eat healthy and work hard and this, that, and the other. And so you're like, okay, well, I'm angry because this person did this. What are we going to do about it? And so you have to figure it out, right? I did this thing where it was called behavior tracking. I would draw out a grid and I would literally be like, date and time. In another box, I'd be like, what are you feeling? In another box, it'd be like, why are you feeling it? And then in the last box, it would be like the solution. So I always try to break it down, because when you have ADHD, everything to you is overwhelming. Literally everything is overwhelming. Every decision, every thought process, every, motion is a whole process. It's a whole thing. It's overwhelming. And so if you break it down by steps, it is a lot more manageable to understand. So by breaking it down and asking yourself these questions in a grid system so that it's organized and you feel more comfortable, you can get to a solution quicker. So by having the system set up for you, whenever you're feeling something, write it down, talk it out, journal it with yourself, be with yourself, and get down to your emotions. Label and identify it. Exercise helps tremendously. If you have ADHD and you have not tried going to the gym, you should try it. Go walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes. Go do some push-ups. Go dance. That's also a form of exercise. Go swim. Do these things because we have a lot of stored up energy. And when we have a lot of stored up energy and our emotional dysregulation comes into play, all of that extra energy feeds into those emotions, making them more intense, making them more impactful with, what we say, what we do. So by getting rid of some of that energy and putting it into a workout and an exercise, something to get that extra energy out, it will make your emotions, your feelings less energized, less overwhelming, right? It'll make it a less intense. So working out does a lot for your brain and for other people, trust me. It'll save you some grief when you out with your friends or doing whatever. Lastly, on this topic, know your triggers. So this is going to take a while. It took me a while to know my triggers. What makes me mad, why it makes me mad. Like, what are some things that I can put in place where it won't make me mad in the future? So knowing your triggers is a lot of shadow work. So a lot of you asking questions to yourself. I got mad at my partner yesterday because she didn't put the dishes away. Okay. Why didn't she put the dishes away? Why are you feeling angry because she didn't put the dishes away? Maybe she was running late and she didn't mean to. Why are you getting angry about it? What are some things you can do? You can be like, hey, like maybe next time can you, please put the dishes away. That'd be great. You can make sure that communication is there with your partners or your family, whoever you live with. Make sure that you are communicating with them so that they know. They can't read minds. They can't read your emotions. Clearly, they don't understand your ADHD. So just make sure you are talking and communicating what you need so that you don't get intense emotions because of something that they done. So with my partner, I do a lot of, hey, like, if you have time, maybe you can clean the kitchen or clean the bathroom, just make sure that all the surfaces are wiped down really nicely so that you can't feel any like gritty parts. Or if the bus is late and you miss the bus and that sets you over the edge and you're in a pissy mood the entire day. Next day, make sure you get to the bus stop earlier so that you ensure and secure yourself to not have a mental breakdown in public because the bus was late and you missed it because it decided to come early. So get there early to avoid those really strong, intense emotions. Know what makes you mad. Know your triggers. Again, a lot of journaling to find out some of these things. Sometimes you're going to have to take a few days to notice the things that really get you angry and write them down. Write them down, know your triggers, and then put in systems to make sure that those triggers are taken care of so that it is easier in the future for you to not get angry about the little things. Know your triggers. Okay, so next topic I want to talk about is rejection sensitivity. Okay, so it's basically having an intense emotion because someone criticizes you, right? So even constructive criticism or any kind of rejection that you get, it is a intense feeling because you're like, oh, well, you can go eat shit because I know I did it the right way and you're wrong and I'm right. Like, it's an intense emotion when people give you constructive criticism or even criticism in general. Somebody commented on my video the other day and it was like a really dumb question. And I was like replying so smart aleckly, like, and I was like, yo, Like, who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. So it's like those kinds of things, really intense emotion into in a response to criticism. And here's the thing, it's kind of the same thing, but very different from the emotional dysregulation, because you're trying to regulate your emotions. But when rejection comes into play, that's when things get a little bit ugly with the relationship with yourself. So these intense emotional responses that happen with criticism and, other people, it causes you to not want to be social. You are less inclined to go to social events because you know that if somebody says something, you're going to be mad. You're going to be mad, you're going to walk out, and it's going to be so disrespectful. And so you just cut yourself out from all of that to save yourself, right? We also, people with ADHD, have a hard time interpreting social cues. Sometimes we read things very wrong. Sometimes we're like, oh, this girl is looking at me, she's judging me. Well, what's wrong with me? Like, why is she judging me like that? Like, girl, look at yourself. Why you gotta be looking at me like that? So we could read it very wrong and turn it into something that is not good for our brains. And again, it's that intense emotion that I'm like, bro, stop looking at me, If you take it and you flip it and you make it a little bit more positive, like, oh, maybe they think I'm attractive. Maybe they think I'm cool and they want to be my friend. So by flipping it, it's a whole new wave of emotion that you get. People with ADHD are more likely to turn things negative than they are positive. I mean, I guess that's also just a regular fact of human beings. When you're out and about and someone criticizes you or you read it wrong, flip it. Try to think of the positive part. Because when you think of the positive part, it makes those emotions less intense. And so that way it's more easy to regulate your emotions when things are less intense. The fear of failure. So when people with ADHD basically get paralyzed because either they're so overwhelmed, they want to start a new project, but they're scared to do it because failure, basically. People with ADHD already know that the world does not work in their favor. We know that society is set up against us, basically. So when we start a project, we are so known for, starting something and then quitting it, or starting something and then starting something else. We know these things. And so when we have a task, we're like, ugh, I don't want to do this. But you do. You really want to. But you're like, ugh, I'm over it. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm so tired. I just want to scroll on TikTok for another hour. And then that's what you end up doing. So the fear of failure really gets intense and it paralyzes us because we are so overwhelmed. But I want to say this even for people with no ADHD that still have fear of failure and are paralyzed because what if they don't succeed, right? They're gonna look goofy, right? What is my family gonna think? What are my friends gonna think? When it comes to starting something new with ADHD, especially, you want to make sure that you take things step by step. Again, it's the breaking down process. When you break things down, it is a lot mentally clearer to you on what you need to be doing and how you do it. A lot of the time when we have ADHD and we have all this stuff going on in our head, like, oh my God, I need to do this. I need to go vacuum. I need to do laundry. I need to do this, but I need to start this YouTube video, but I need to. So it's like a lot of talk in the brain. If you write it out and you give yourself a checklist of what you need to do in order to succeed at that project or get it done, get it off your plate. If you make a checklist and you break down every single little part, it is going to be 10 times easier for you to succeed at that thing. So what I do is I break down everything into a list. I break down my days. If I have a really big project, I break it down by steps. If I have a work thing and I have to go do a setup, I have to break down everything that I have to set up. Shot list. Shoot every single thing that's on this list. That way, you literally set yourself up for success when you are scatterbrained everywhere, where you're like, okay, I need to shoot this clip. Let's do this clip. And then you're like, oh, well, I need to start that load of laundry. And then it's like, I need to go start the laundry. So you start the laundry, but then like when you come back, you're like, oh, I can go back to my list. Here's where I left off. Here we go. Because when you're ADHD, you do a lot of multitasking and you start to forget all the things that you're multitasking. So having a list, having a physical thing you can see is something that's very, very helpful, and that sets you up for success in the future. The impact on relationships in terms of rejection sensitivity. So if somebody breaks up with you, it is the end of the world. Nothing compares to the feeling that you get when you are broken up with. That is such an intense feeling. And I just remember this. Like, I remember bawling, crying on the ground, like not being able to breathe. Like, it hurt so bad. My emotions, I was like, I don't even care what I feel right now. I'm on the floor crying. Like, the love of my life just walked out on me. Like, I'm done for. Like, what is wrong with me? You know? And so when you get feedback like that and you're like, oh, well, this person broke up with me because, I don't know, I'm probably ugly, or I didn't do this right, or, you know, they said this and, you know, I should be better at that. You start turning everything on yourself. You start blaming yourself for literally everything. That is not good. Because I'm going to be so straight up honest with you. When someone breaks up with you, 9 times out of 10, it's both y'all's fault. It is. So feeling those emotions are fine. Give yourself some time to feel those emotions. And then what you need to do is you need to write a list of things that you need to get better at, things you need to work on, and also things that you did that's good and well and set. So this way it kind of exudes that negative thing or things that you've done in that relationship, and you flip it to be like, okay, I'm going to work on this, or I did this really well. Let's put this into my next relationship. Or, you know, let's figure out why this didn't work, and let's try it out in our next relationship. Let's communicate more. Let's figure out my emotions next time before I speak. So doing that will help you benefit, and it will help you to not beat up yourself so much. And that's the next thing that I want to move on into, is beating yourself up. People with ADHD, because we feel things on such an intense level, we beat ourselves up 10 times harder in our brain. So if we do something wrong and we know we did something wrong, there is nothing you can tell a person with ADHD that they are not telling themselves. Like, the amount of times I've beaten myself up for such the littlest thing is immense. I could not get myself out of my head okay, this is a really good example. Yesterday, I had a reusable sandwich bag. I put a bagel in there for lunch. I warmed up the bagel on a paper towel and I ate it for lunch. It was great. I accidentally left the bag on the table. When I got home and I realized this, I was so pissed at myself. I said, why would you lose it? Like, that's your possession. Like, that's yours. Like, why would you lose it? Like, you're so dumb. You're an idiot. like, that's so stupid. Like, you had a whole system so that you would, put it back in your bag and you didn't. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're a piece of shit. Like, literally, I'll tell you, it was just over a reusable sandwich bag. And I was beating myself up for it. And like, I was raised never to lose things because, you paid money for it. You put, time and effort into, so you have to keep up with your stuff. Like, that's what I was taught. But also having ADHD on top of it, you get that feeling so much so that it literally breaks you. Like, you can break yourself. Honestly, you can break yourself with the negative self-talk. And so I really started noticing these things. And I'm like, gosh, man, like, it's fine. It's literally only like, a couple dollars. Like, it's fine. Like, it's okay. We'll just go back tomorrow. And if it's there, great. If it's not, it is what it is. It's just a reusable bag. And all night I was thinking about it. All the day I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, I hope it's there. Like, oh my gosh, like, otherwise I'm gonna be really mad at myself. Like, blah, blah. It's like, I could not let it go. I could not let it go. And if I write it down in my journal and I put my emotions down and I ask myself, why am I so upset about this? 9 times out of 10, it's just like, I messed up. I was forgetful. I didn't, do that thing right there and then, because then I would forget it if I didn't do it right there and then. I didn't put it back in my bag when I should have been. So it's super, super hard to get out of this negative pattern of beating yourself up. It is so hard for people with ADHD and not. I'm going to be like very honest with you. But what I've realized is no matter how much you beat yourself up, it's pointless. It really is pointless. It's not going to fix anything. It's not going to bring anything back. It's not going to like literally fix anything. But you have the awareness now to be like, okay, well, if I bring another sandwich bag again, I know that I'll put it in the microwave and then I'll go take that bag right to my backpack and then I'll go back and get my food. So having the awareness each time you mess up is something that you can benefit from. Beating yourself up, you are going to get nowhere. You are going to get nowhere. And, I started realizing this, every time I start to beat myself up, I'm like, Lauren, it's okay. It is okay. Everything is replaceable and like you can breathe. It is fine. Knowing that it's pointless, knowing that no matter how much you beat yourself up, nothing is going to change. So might as well use that energy to do something else rather than to use that energy to beat yourself up over it when it's not going to fix it. Like, I can understand using your energy to, do something progressive, but when it's just tearing you down, there's no point to use that energy on it. Another thing is that when you focus on all of the negative things, you're not focusing on the things that you've done well. We focus on all of the negative things because we are always looking for ways to change ourselves. We are always looking for something to blame it on. So by looking at all the negative things all the time, it breaks us down mentally and we start to lose confidence in ourselves. And that's the number one thing that we honestly have to have is confidence in ourselves. Because if you're not confident, you're going to look ugly. I'm so sorry. You're going to look ugly if you are not confident. It's just how it is. That's just period, point blank. I'm done with this podcast. So by, being aware of the negative things, taking note, okay, I messed this up, but next time I'm going to get this. And in addition to Acknowledge the things that you have done well. Take those small accomplishments and run with them. As people with ADHD, we don't celebrate our victories as much as we should. We focus on the negatives. So when you have an accomplishment, we tend to belittle that. You need to take that and celebrate it. Take a moment, take a day, take 30 seconds, it doesn't matter. You do something that makes you happy because you had an accomplishment. You did this, that was a goal that you had and you set and you accomplished it. Like, do something for yourself. You could take a nap. You could, take yourself out to eat. Like, make sure that you are taking care of yourself in that way. I always like to think of it as, an inner child. My inner child is screaming when I reach a goal. It is jumping up and down, dancing on a table. Like, she is happy. And my older self is like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm ignoring that inner child. So go take that inner child out for ice cream. Go eat some ice cream, girl. So celebrate the little accomplishments, because those little accomplishments are going to turn into big accomplishments. And those big accomplishments are the ones that you're going to really want to celebrate. So make sure that you are letting yourself celebrate for even the little things. And stop beating yourself up so much. Just saying. These are some of the things that come with having ADHD. And this is the emotional side. Some of it. It's not all of it, girl. Trust me, there's a whole thing in our brains that we are just wired differently than other people. So we have a different way, a different system on dealing with how we handle things and emotions. And emotions are definitely really hard to understand, especially with people who have ADHD, because, everyone's like, oh yeah, ADHD, shaking the legs, twitching, doing the whole like blah, 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 acting so silly, acting out in class, whatever. But like, people don't understand the emotional dysregulation part, which is super important for when, you have to deal with it, or they start barking at you, or, so it's, you have to understand it and you have to learn about it, educate yourself, because it is helpful for them and it's also helpful for you. So you understand what is going on and like what the process looks like. So this was just a little bit about, the emotional side of ADHD, why we act the way we act sometimes, why we overreact sometimes, even to the littlest of things. So I hope this helped you guys a little bit. If you want to, if you're listening to this on YouTube, subscribe, like, share, comment, all that fun stuff. And if you're on Spotify, I got a YouTube. It's Adventures with Lauren. Go little check it out. And I'll see you guys all in the next episode. Let me know if you like it. All right. Peace out. Enjoy life. Live it up. Stay young, wired, and unmedicated. Yeah.